Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is I feel I need to share some information about the Attorney General for England and Wales and the Advocate General for Northern Ireland. Because this man has got a shocking, frightening past and has done some incredibly outrageous things since he got the job after the general election in July 2024. Now what happened here was, last night actually, I was alerted to this, but I didn't know who this guy was up until last night. When Robert Jenrick put out a small clip of what was a Justice Committee meeting in Westminster to question the Attorney General, about some legalities of things that the government may or may not be looking at doing in the future. And that's kind of his job. He is meant to, or he or she, whoever's in position, is meant to advise the government when they want to do things. So if they want to change legislation or do anything, let's say we were wanting to remarkably come out of the ECHR, we would ask for this person to advise the government on legal matters surrounding it. And that's how the thing's meant to work, but it appears to be working the opposite way. So anyway, he's in this Justice Committee meeting yesterday, and he's asked some questions, and something bizarre came up about Gerry Adams. And this is what instigated, I thought, well, that's a bit weird. And I'll come to the video in a minute. So I thought, who is this guy? And I would have happily done a 10-minute video based purely on this one clip, 30-second clip from the Justice Committee meeting yesterday. However, I then thought, well, who is this guy? I've had two places I've used for resource. I've not done a deep dive, and I have found out some absolutely mental things about this guy and his past and what he's done. 5 things that he's been involved with since the government took over in July 2024. And it actually blows your mind. This guy actually, I think, is really, really powerful. And I think, sometimes we've got a sort of hooded claw figure at the back, pulling the cogs. I kind of think this is what's going on here. And before I go into the video, I'll share that with you. It's only a 30-second clip. I'll put that in a minute. But I need to tell you about his background. Now, as I say, I've only used 2 places for resource. Wikipedia and an excellent Daily Telegraph article yesterday by the journalist, it's only fair I give him proper, Gordon Rayner, right? So he put this together. So between that and Wikipedia, the stuff that I've found out about this Richard Hermer, who's now a lord, blew my mind, right? Now, the thing in the video that I'm going to show you, in fact, I'll show you that just now, because that proves the guy is Gerry Adams' lawyer. And what he's basically asked in this clip is, Gerry Adams could be taking the UK government to court in a financial claim for his imprisonment in the 70s, and this guy's his lawyer, and he's now given their government advice. Now this is overturning a decision that was made by Tories and backed by Labour, by the Tory government, that would stop Gerry Adams and his claiming damages. Stamer wants to overturn that. And yesterday I was like, why would you do that? What has suddenly turned him into this? I found out it's Richard Hermer, the Attorney General. That's the connection, that's the reason. So this guy's asked in this Justice Committee meeting, were you going to basically financially gain if your client gets money off the British government? And watch what happens next in this clip.
I see. You've acted for Gerry Adams in the past. Could you tell the committee whether you acted for him on any form of conditional fee agreement?
Well, I'm afraid I can't recall, and even if I could recall, I'm not sure I would feel inclined to answer a question as to how the basis on which I was paid by any given client.
Okay.
Isn't it remarkable? I can't recall. You can't remember. So basically the guy's saying to him, if you already discussed a fee, if you know what you're going to get out of his claim, because normally a lawyer would get a cut of a claim. And he's saying he can't remember. This must be the only lawyer in the history of lawyers that can't remember or doesn't know if he's getting paid for doing work or not. And then he goes on to say, well, even if I did remember, I probably wouldn't tell you anyway. Who do you think you are? Right? So this blew my mind. And as I say, this could be a 10-minute video in itself, in its own rights. But with a 10-minute dive into this guy, it's the tip of the iceberg. So before the guy gets the job, there's 3 things I need to talk about. His life before becoming this job, how he got this job, and what 5 things he's done, which will blow your mind, since he got the job, right? So he was made a QC, a QC as it was at the time, in 2012. And there was a celebration, a reception for this. Guess who made the toast? Starmer. Guess who's worked in a number of human rights cases together through time? Richard Hermer and Stamer. Okay? He went on to work, and I'll just get exact details, for Matrix Chambers in 2012. Guess who started Matrix Chambers? Sherry Blair, a human rights firm that basically concentrates on human rights. So he's doing that. And during his time doing that, he's defended Gerry Adams when he was subject to a claim from people who were victims of the IRA bombing. Defended them. He defended Shamina Begum in a case against our Home Office. And he also, against the Home Secretary. And he also defended one of the most notorious residents in Guantanamo Bay, and Abu Zubaydah. Now Google him. That's another video in itself, right? And he defended him against our Foreign Office. And he's got a litany of things. You just go into his Wikipedia, it'll show you some of the most bizarre cases this guy was in, and they're all human rights stuff, right? The man's a mad lefty. He's been a Labour man since his teenage years, okay? And human rights is his thing. So that's kind of a bit about his past. Sorry, in 2020, when Keir Starmer was trying to be the Labour leader, this guy donated to his fund. So the relationship between him and Starmer toasts him when he's at his reception when he becomes a QC. Starmer gets money off him when he was trying to be the Labour leader, and they worked in loads of cases together, right? So he's chum, okay? So as we get up to the election, there was, let me just get her name because I've just briefly forgot about this. Dame Emily Thornberry, she was the shadow Attorney General for 3 years under Stamer, right? Everybody thinks she's it. Right out of left field, the first time in over 100 years, the person given the role as the Attorney General has got no parliamentary experience, right? Which is odd, because you'd think that makes sense as a prerequisite for the role. So it's the first time in over 100 years he's plucked out, dropped in. Now he becomes our cabinet minister, so he has to be in Westminster at the time, which he isn't, right? So he becomes a peer. Starmer makes him a Lord. So he's then in the House of Lords. Now, you normally get that for stuff you've done in the past. This isn't. This was for what he might do in the future, right? So you're doing this job in the future, we need to give you a peerage. So he made him a Lord. Parachuted him in, bang, into Lords, you're the Attorney General. And nobody knows, right? Now, some people know, but I spoke to people this morning that are quite clued up in politics, far more than me, and I was like, who is this guy? Not got a clue, right? So he's in the shadows. And how he got there is bizarre and bonkers, okay? So that's us now covered the bit about how he got the role. So we know in the past all these mental things happened about, the connection with Starmer, the people he's defended, his human rights suit, he's not, he's a mad lefty, Cherry Blair, it's all stinking, right? Gets the job, shouldn't have happened. Now, since he's getting the job, this is where I'm going to reference from the Telegraph article, It was said that Sir Keir trusted him to give unbiased opinions rather than try to please him with favourable interpretations of the law. But that long career of human rights also meant the Lord Advocate had accumulated a collection of clients and cases who would not always sit comfortably with his role as a cabinet minister. That's the ones that we've just covered, where he's basically defended folk and tried to, do damages in cases against our government. Mental. So since he's took over, now let me just skim this. I do apologise. I thought I had this right on the thing. So Lord Hermer was acting for Adams in private case in 2023, which was unrelated to Sir Keir's decision to change the law, and Downing Street has refused to say whether he was involved in discussions about the law change. Because what's happening with the Gerry Adams thing, I've done a video on this yesterday, I'll tag it in here at the end of the video. Basically, the Tories put a thing through that made paramilitaries unable to claim against the government for being interned during the 70s and 80s. That was basically what happened. Now, the Tories put that through about a year and a half ago, and it was voted on. Labour voted it through, right? So they supported it. And yesterday I done this video, and I thought, what's changed between then and now? There was something missing in the jigsaw, because why would you suddenly change like that, right? Well, what's changed is Gerry Adams, lawyer, is now the Attorney General. That's what's changed since this decision was made only a short time ago, and it now makes sense why it's been overturned, or attempted to be overturned, so quickly. But Downing Street have refused to say whether he was involved in discussions about potentially changing the law. Now, the reason that they can't, if they say, yes, he was, then it's a clear conflict of interest because of such a high-profile client that he's got. If they say, no, he wasn't, and some piece of paper shows up in a year or two's time, it would bring down a government that they told such a blatant lie. So they've said no. So I think probability would suggest that Hermer was involved in, let's change this law. There's no other reason for why. It's not a manifesto point. It's not really that important to anybody bar the claimants, possible claimants. So why? And this is what was bothering me yesterday. I'm like, why have Labour went 180 degrees on this in such a short space of time when nothing's really happened? So that's stinking. The other thing since he took over was Southport. Now, he's the guy that is now advised Sir Starmer that it would be lawful to charge social media users with stirring up racial hatred online, which led to all these controversial prison sentences during the summer. He later said people could not, I quote, hide behind a keyboard and would find themselves in a cell if they incited racial and religious hatred online. So now we find out who drove all that nonsense in the summer. Lord Hermer. Right? So that's the second thing. So we're changing this law to let people sue us that we're terrorists. Pushing Stamer, I jailed him. Right? That's 2. 3, remember the Taylor Swift thing? She got the convoy through London by the Met Police. Never happened in its life before. Met Police weren't wanting to do it. Guess who told them they could do it and should do it? Well, that was Hermer. He intervened and said it would be lawful for the Met Police to provide the escort. And meanwhile, at the concert is all the rest of the cabinet on their freebies and jollies. Right? So that's the third thing since July. Where are we? He was involved in the decision to withdraw the UK's objection to arrest warrants being issued against Israeli officials by the ICC. So this is what we're at now. This is 4, right? So what this happened? The Tory government went, aye, there's ICC, I've said get arrest warrants out for Israeli officials, and the UK went, nah, we're not going to implement that. Guess who was involved in the decision to change that? The Lord Hermer, right? So that's the 4th thing. The 5th thing he'd done was he suspended export permits for goods going from British companies to Israel. He signed it off. Suspended. Take their export permits off them. They ain't giving stuff to Israel. 5 things. And the 6th thing is, now this is bonkers, right? This is only something that I found out after a wee quick chat with Basil, the guy on Twitter that do a lot of stuff with. I didn't know this. See the Chagos Islands, right? He said Britain had an obligation under international law to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. Okay? Even though International Court of Justice advised opinion was not legally binding. Now, what I didn't know, and this is a bit of a basil, and he told me and my jaw dropped, what I didn't know is the Attorney General for Mauritius, is Starmer's pal that he's worked with in human rights things in the past. Now, I don't know, because I've not done a deep dive. I've looked at 2 resources to come up with this video, right? If I'd done a deep dive, I could probably prove to you that Starmer, the head lawyer guy for Mauritius that are taking the Chagos Islands, and this guy who's telling the British government we're obliged to do it, I'll guarantee you the 3 of them know each other. I find it odd to accept that Starmer and a human rights guy here know each other, but the guy in Mauritius, the guy that's their Attorney General, don't know each other, right? When they all do the same gig. So I'll put my reputation at stake, right, without even going and finding out. But I normally back up everything I say in a video. I'm going to take a flyer at this one. They 3 know each other, right? And we're trying to push through a thing to offload a foreign territory by a guy that's telling us, as the chief advisor for this is his job, to advise the government, right, that we're obliged to do it, when that's actually not the case at all. And guess what? It's another pal is the guy trying to do the deal for Mauritius. This is a scam. This is ridiculous. This sort of shite should end a government, but it won't, right? So, is it me? Am I the only person that will watch this and get this information and go, that ain't right? Is it me? Or are these things not right? Now, this guy is a staunch left wing, potentially far left. And he's never wavered since his student days. He's never grown up. And now, he's been parachuted in with his pal Stamer for one of the most powerful jobs in the country. And, again, there was a good bit at the end of this. Dr. Zhan Yi Zhu, and I do apologise, Doctor, if I pronounce your name incorrectly, a senior fellow at Policy Exchange, said in The Spectator, this is a sign that the Attorney General effectively held a veto over policies and that lawyers were given directions to elected politicians, rather than the other way around. This is clever people that know more than me saying this is stinking. Because what that job should be is the government should go to them and say, we want to change this legislation, how do we do it? Are we able to do it? And this guy comes back and says yes or no. Doesn't appear to be the way things are working. It appears that he is telling them what to do. And that is wrong and should not be able to carry on. So, my 10-minute man was nearly 20. I do apologise. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and notification bell. Let me know your comments below, please. Give me your opinions and feedback. People will know more about that than me, but I'll guarantee the vast majority of the British public will not even know this guy's name, right? I hope I've enlightened a few people of that today. However, the most important thing of all, unless you're in this mad cabal of the mad extreme lefties who are deciding to run roughshod over all good practice, common sense and logic, and are destroying our country, not you, but
everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.